Welcome to But Jesus Drank Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
In this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out,
but actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
Hey ladies, we are super blessed to have Jess Connolly in the podcast studio today. I found Jess because a girlfriend at Bible study handed me her book, You Are the Girl for the Job, back pre-pandemic in 2020. And I read that book alongside This Naked Mind when I was in the beginning of my alcohol-free journey, and it changed my life. And then she decided to write a book about body shame. And body shame, as Mead and I talk about a lot about on this podcast, is something that we both have dealt with. And it was something that when I found, right after I found freedom from alcohol, I knew I needed to find freedom from body shame. And thank the Lord, Jess wrote this book. So she is in the studio today. We're going to talk all about what happens when we view our bodies as a project. And we're also going to talk about, do we need to balance health and freedom from body shame? Like, what if we want to be healthy? What does it mean to rest in the picture of health? And all this good stuff. So I'm so grateful to have Jess with us today. Please go pick up either You Are the Girl for the Job or Breaking Free from Body Shame, or both. She has other books out there too, but those are my two favorite. And I was so blessed to get to meet her in person and become one of her certified coaches over at Go and Tell Gals. There's an incredible coaching community of women over there as well, and we will link to that in the show notes. So anyways, without further ado, here is our chat with Jess Connolly.
Hey ladies, how are you today? It's so good to see you both. I'm just, yay. So blessed, so honored to have my friend and a woman that I've learned so much from, Jess Connolly, here in the pod studio today. We are going to be talking about breaking free from body shame, which I know for both Mead and I is something that comes up all the time when in conjunction with, or in my case, right after I found freedom from alcohol, I needed to find freedom from body shame. So thank you for being here today, Jess. We're so glad you're here.
It is my honor. Thank you guys so much. I'm so grateful for your work. I'm so grateful for this podcast, and I'm thrilled to be a guest today.
Yay. So yeah, let's just jump right in. I think that this podcast timing is coming at a great time of the year, right? Because we're heading into the summer. I was just away actually this past weekend for my husband's 40th birthday, and we were like, having a great time eating all the meals. And I actually said yesterday at our last dinner, diet starts tomorrow. And as it came out, it was like one of those, like how you get those, like me, you get those cravings for like alcohol. I was like, wait, what is that? Where did that come from? Why did that just come out of my mouth? I don't think that anymore. So yeah, I just want to dive into like my favorite chapter in the book, which I recommend to so many women when they bring up this topic. And that is the whole idea of like treating our bodies as projects, something that needs to get ready for the summer, that we need to somehow change because of an upcoming holiday or vacation or whatever. So yeah, tell us a little bit about all the things.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, this idea is so culturally normative that we have essentially multiple markets that make millions, if not billions of dollars off of this idea that our bodies are projects and that they are on a time-based calendar, and that as soon as the summer months get warmer, we should be making them better. We should be fixing them. We should be working on them. And we're subtly and overtly told this message almost from birth. And it only amplifies with age, but it's one of those really crazy cultural lies. and I would even say cultural assaults on our body and on our
Mm.
soul that's so wild because we don't even hear it anymore. And I mean, we don't even it's just normative. It's just normal. And this goes for Christians, this goes for people outside the church. It's everybody. But I don't know, a few years ago, I when I was in the thick of really breaking free from body shame myself and really kind of starting to wrestle down this idea, like, what scripture says about my body, I do not live into. And what
Mm.
God says about my identity and my freedom, I actually co-sign on in all of these other parts of my life, and not this one part of my life. Which I would say is so similar to the work that you guys do of saying, like, hold
Yeah.
on one second, hold on one second. Like, if we believe all this is true, like, something is amiss. Um, but so I
Yes.
just started to like really dig into that in my own life about my body image. And summer was coming up, and I just had this wild thought. And it was, what if I look the same that I do now at the beginning of summer? And what if I look the same as I do now at the end of summer? What if this
Yeah.
is my body? And what flooded me was wild peace. And
Mm.
I all of a sudden was like, oh, then I would just be. That I would just live and I would just show up, and that would be okay. And actually, more than that, that would be abundance. That would be freedom. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where this idea in the book that your body is not a project comes from, to help women see, like, number one, you're hearing this message that's not biblical, and it has nothing to do with the kingdom, and it has nothing to do with how Jesus would talk to you. And number two, it's actually really, really badly impacting your mind, body, and your spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that you talk about with relation to that in the book is just that it totally and completely makes you miss the abundance of the here and the now. You miss out on so much joy. And I remember when I was like, I had just gotten my TNM coaching certification, and I was working with my own coach, and I was like, I'm not ready to like come out on Instagram as a like life coach. I feel like I need to lose
Yeah,
10 pounds first. It
yeah.
was going to hold me back from this thing that, God called me to do, because I didn't feel like my body was ready because of an
Ooh,
Instagram post, and it was just
yeah,
like, so when you wrote that, I was just like, oh, it's so true. So
yeah.
true.
It's real. It's real. I can't get over, I mean, the amount of women. I would actually say it's probably easier to quantify the number of women who don't let their body image hold them back from the things they feel called to than it would be to quantify the other way. I would say it's actually
Yeah.
probably the norm that most women are not stepping into the things that they're qualified for, that they're called to, that they've always dreamed of. It's more normal that they don't do that because of how their body looks than the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think almost like, I don't know, for me, and Mead's heard me say this a million times, but I almost feel it like it's a more difficult thing to find freedom from than even alcohol, right? Because alcohol
Mm,
you can put down and you don't have to drink it again. You're still going to have to eat food.
yeah.
You're still going to even have
Yeah.
to consume, you're still going to have to even consume sugar to some extent or another,
Yeah.
all of these things. And so it is just, yeah, I mean, for me personally, you wrote the book at the perfect time. And I don't know how
Mm,
the heck you did it during the pandemic, but I'm so grateful that you did, because I know how many lives it's touched.
yeah.
And just the things I think, you know, you feel that, obviously, that cognitive dissonance, that feeling of like, I know that I want to feel free from this thing. I know that I
Yeah.
don't want to wake up every morning and feel like I have to weigh myself before I pee, like that kind of thing. But I
Yeah.
don't think I realized until I read the book, like what all the things that was holding back for me in my
Yeah.
relationship with Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It has a massive impact. I mean, it has an incredible impact on so many different areas of our lives.
And
Yeah.
I love the question you asked. It seems like such a pivotal, and it's so central to what it's so similar, so central to what we coach around too with, finding freedom from alcohol is the power of
Hmm.
the what if, the power of the question, the power of the possible. What else is possible if I have always seen my body as a project that needs to be fixed and, I need to make it good. What if it's possible that it's already good? Maybe I can't leap all the way to believing, this one thing that I haven't co-signed on with God, right? Like this one thing, maybe I haven't totally, gotten to that place where I can say, yes, I do feel that's true. But what if I'm open to seeing that, and how maybe that can shift? Like it's kind of the vision problem that creates the thinking, right? And so, yeah, I love that you kind of highlighted that, and wondered what some, like, are there other questions or things that you found particularly powerful on your journey to changing kind of your thinking around this, or that gave you new openings?
I
mean,
love
so
that
many things
question.
to try.
Yeah, I mean, so even just the project-based mentality, if we want to like pause there, like some other questions, and even I would say like some effects that we see from this thing, this horrible thing that we all live under, this banner that we live under. I would say some questions for the soul-minded woman or the spiritual woman or the kingdom-minded woman, whatever that means, is number one, I would ask like, who are you agreeing with when you live under this project-based mentality? Like, whose team
Yeah,
are you on?
so good.
And Christy, I know you've heard me talk about this a ton. I hate the phrase devil's advocate. I hate the phrase. And I feel like it's so interesting because especially when I start talking about body image, people are like, well, I just want to play devil's advocate here real quick. I'm sure you guys hear the same thing about sobriety all the time. Like, well, just devil's advocate. And I always say, do you want to advocate for the devil?
Yeah.
I don't. I
Like,
don't.
what are you saying? Yeah.
If I just told you a kingdom-minded truth that's based in wholeness and wellness and healing and freedom, really? You want to advocate for the devil? Interesting. But so yeah, whose team are you on when you're buying into this project-based mentality? Whose team are you on when you're writing out a plan to get like snatched by your Mexico trip? Whose team are you on? I would say what I found when I really asked that question is that I was co-signing with this assault of the enemy of our souls against women. I was co-signing with the enemy who was telling women that they didn't have worth unless they were smaller, faster, better, stronger, etc. And I realized like I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to co-sign with him. I don't want to be on his team. I don't want to advocate for
Yeah.
him. Another question I would ask is whose glory are you going after? Whose glory are you going after? And this one is raw, and I don't know about y'all, but this is the one that like hits me in the gut punch
Yep.
because I had to ask myself like over and over and over again in the process of breaking free from body shame. Even just like a common scenario I often use is like getting ready for church. Getting ready for church on a Sunday morning. That was a time that I would often really struggle with body image issues, and I'd feel funky about my body, et cetera, et cetera. And I realized I am going to the house of God to give glory to God with the people of God, to put my eyes on things above, like Colossians 3 says. And I am standing here in front of my mirror, procuring and cultivating and curating my own glory.
Yeah.
Really, all I'm thinking about is like, what are they going to think about me? And that's a
Yeah.
normative experience for us. But we find so much freedom in just repenting of that, being like, oh, actually, when I think about my summer, I want to think about glorifying God. I want to think about like running on the beach with my kids in joy. I want to think about laughing with my girlfriends late into the night about something hilarious. I want to think about strolling with my husband and holding his hand in the warm heat. I want to think about all those things and giving glory to God in those things. I actually don't want to be thinking about my body and what everybody else thinks about it and what I think about it. So, if the first question is like, whose team are you on? The second question is, whose glory are you after? I would say a third really honest question for me was, are you missing out? Are you missing out? And what I found is that in always being in this project-based mentality, in always thinking that I would have fun, I would be better, I would be who I was supposed to be once I got thin, I was constantly missing out on the present. And the truth is like this future ideal self for all of us is never coming. And when you ask most people who have been on even like a dramatic physical journey or a dramatic healing journey or even just have lost a lot of weight or have changed their body, they will almost all tell you, I was still me when it was all over.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
actually me the whole time. I thought I'd wake up and I'd be a different person, and I wasn't. I was still me. And also, it was still not enough. It was
Yeah.
still not enough for me to enjoy my life. And so I had to start asking, like, am I missing out on just being here now and being awake and alive instead of always looking to this future version of myself who is never coming,
Mm.
ever, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that arrival fallacy, that if, when, then, like, if I could just do that, if I could just, get this, if I could just lose this amount of weight, if I could
Yeah.
just fit into that, those jeans, if I could just look like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
then I'll be, and it's a lie.
Yes.
It's not true.
Yeah. It
Hmm.
just backs up perfect to I don't know where we're putting it, but with Pastor David's episode, just like, and I think you wrote it in the book, Jess. It's like, this is the devil's very first thing was just putting not enough on the
Yep.
table, right?
Mm.
Amen. Yes. Amen. Oh, woo. So true. It's so, so, so true.
Yeah. And that arrival, I mean, in my own personal situation, like, I feel like I arrived at the goal weight. I posted the picture looking for the glory of myself. I got the fire
Yeah.
emojis. Like, this was in the depth of my drinking days. And I was, and it wasn't good enough. And I was the most unhappy I'd ever been, and it just wasn't. And so thinking about all the times missing out and not being who I was supposed to be in the run up to that was just, yeah, no, I don't want that
Yeah.
anymore,
Yeah. 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 So true. So true. So good.
Um, one of the questions I know that you get asked a lot, and I think it plays in really well for gals that we speak to too, is, and I know this happens to you too, Mead. We ask people when they come to us, like, okay, what do you want to do this for? Like, who do you want to do this for when we're talking about taking a break from alcohol? And so often, and I actually don't even think I've ever talked to one woman who hasn't somehow brought up that they wanted to lose weight, whether it's like the primary reason they want to take a break from alcohol, or it's like an
Hmm.
afterthought, like, oh, those 10 pounds would be nice to lose too. And
Yeah.
so what do you say to, the people who say that, how do you balance this freedom from body shame, but also the want and the desire to be healthy?
Hmm. Yeah. I love this question. I love it and I hate it. I love it and I hate it. I love that people ask it. I
Yeah.
hate that the enemy of our souls has convinced us that this is a thing we have to balance. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I would say we don't balance it at all. We run after freedom and we run after health. Now, the massive caveat is this, that I think a lot of us are using the phrase health, and what we really mean is aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I think
Yeah.
we say health, but what we really mean is the last 10 pounds so that my cheekbones pop a little bit more. And it is important to know that's not health. And actually, like the aesthetic version of health right now, for a lot, the aesthetic, culturally aesthetic approved version of health, I think you guys would agree, like that we know, like most medical doctors would say, like, oh, that's actually not it. Like, that's
Yeah.
actually not, that's actually
No.
like,
No.
we actually need like a healthy layer of fat on our bodies, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now that being said, like I also think what's interesting about this, and the other huge asterisk, is that like each different body's version of what is their most healthy is so wildly different. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the other reason that we can't all co-sign to like one aesthetic ideal for our bodies. Um, but so all that being said, I don't think we balance it at all. Christy, I know you know this about me. I have very funky health. I have a handful of different things going on. I've got a really intense autoimmune disease. I found out a couple months ago. I am insulin resistant, so I'm wearing a blood sugar monitor constantly. My my diet, and by diet I just mean like the food I eat, is so intentional. It's like perfectly planned throughout the day. And all of that is because that's what my body really needs to be healthy. That's what my body really needs for me to take care of it. But none of that is about the desired outcome of how I want to look. All of that is about stewarding my body so that I can take good care of myself and take good care of other people for as long as possible and give God glory as long as I can in this body. And I do all of that while knowing, like, also this body lives under the effects of a fallen world, and it's just not ever going to be perfect. And I can do all the things and I'm still going to experience brokenness and pain, etc. So that being said, I run full after health. I love health. In fact, for me, in the process of breaking free from body shame was when I realized how much I loved health, because I would avoid doing certain things in my body because I had written rules about what I could or couldn't do. And so um, during my process of breaking free from body shame, that's when I realized, like, I'm a little bit of a runner. I'm 5'4" and crazy curvy, but something about my body, when I start running, I do not stop. And all people are always asking me, like, are you training for something? I'm like, no, I just like to get out there. Like an 8 or 10 miler is my best day ever. But if you looked at me, you would not know that necessarily, because again, I don't have like this very typical runner's body. But it took me breaking free from body shame to say, like, who cares? What's a runner's body? This is what I like to do, you know? And it was through the process of breaking free from body shame that I became an exercise instructor, because I was like, oh, what would I do if I actually believed all this? I would get up in front of other people and help them move their bodies. And I would stop believing this lie that my body has to look a certain way. So all that being said, I run fully after health, and I would encourage other people too. But the big asterisk is, I would say, your version of health is not going to look like somebody else's. And also, we have to stop confusing health and an aesthetic ideal, because they're not the same thing.
100%. Because also that umbrella, so to speak, of health is also rest, which is not something that we that we associate with.
Exactly.
Really, I think when we're talking about the aesthetic side of things of health, and so such a big piece of the puzzle for me was moving my body because it felt good mentally and like my mental health, and completely ditching the idea of exercise because it used to be as a thing that I used as punishment, for what I ate or whatever. And so
or drank,
but also or drank a lot
yeah.
And just that small shift. And like, that's what I say to clients. It's like, if you fast forward to the end of your workout, like, how do you feel? Are you so exhausted and wish you hadn't gone on the run? Then take a nap, sister. But if you feel great, and in Jesus' name, but if you feel like energized and ready to face the day and be a better mom at the end, then go for it. But please take off your step counter.
Yes. Oh Lord. Do you know my favorite thing that I found out? I don't know if you guys have heard this, because as I was writing the book, I found out about all these arbitrary like health things. And did you know that this whole thing of like you should have 10,000 steps a day was a mistake? It was never originally designated by a doctor. The first ever like wrist pedometer, I believe the story goes, it was made in Japan, and the symbol of the brand was close to the symbol for 10,000. And so I'm dead serious. So this became the standard, like everybody should walk 10,000 steps a day. No, that's how it came up to be. It was a branding mistake because someone didn't understand Japanese. I'm dead serious. Isn't that crazy?
My gosh.
Isn't that wild?
I mean, it is actually wild. Wild and crying, laughing.
Yeah. And then same, then you start to study the development of the BMI, the body mass index that doctors are, using and pulling out and calling everybody obese and extremely obese. And then you find out that was actually like helped develop in conjunction with pharmaceutical companies, basically, so they can put a lot of people on medicine. And you're like, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Look at the sales of the step counters and look at the sales of the things that benefit from having those markers. And oh my gosh, so
and in
true.
all of this, people just have completely lost touch with like a desire based walk towards health.
Yeah.
Like they've just
Yes.
completely lost touch with like, I'm like, do you even like walking? Do you like
Right.
running?
Right.
Can you find something that you like to do? Do you hate CrossFit? Please stop doing it. You don't like to go to
Yeah.
spin, in the name of Jesus, do not go back. Move your body in a way that is life-giving. And so yeah, it's wild. You'll find thing after thing after thing like that you're like, we live in a web of lies.
Yeah. Yeah. Diet culture and big alcohol. The two of them are super,
Oh,
super fun.
yes.
Sorry, Mead. What were you going to say, babe?
Well, I was just thinking too, it's so, similar to how like what, asking the question, like, what is your definition of health? Like
Yep.
how I would describe health and how you would just like, if you had to define that for somebody who had, from a foreign land that didn't speak this language, how would you define health for yourself? What does that look like? And, thinking about how do you know when you are healthy? What does health
Yeah.
feel like? Connecting what your thinking is to what it feels like. And so then that way it becomes like your rubric
So
for
good.
moving your body and deciding, like, I know that
Yes.
was one of the biggest things when I, found freedom from alcohol, or when I was going through the journey. It was like, do I get to ask, like, what do I like? Wow. I get to
So
ask,
Yeah.
good.
do I like? Who knew that was
Right.
a thing that I could do? It's just, I've been going to the
This.
gym and beating myself up, like only doing the workouts that make me want to vomit at the end, and qualifying that
Yeah.
as what I need to do. But it's in that like expansion and the questioning and the, thinking about, I come back to like renewing our minds, right? And,
Yeah.
and checking that against, where did we get these ideas, and are they true? And where do we find the truth?
So good.
I was listening to Jess. I don't remember where it was. I think it was on a podcast recently about the two things that people said when they put down the book. One was "I'm beautiful," and the second one was something to the effect, and I'll probably butcher it, but like I can finally start hearing from God what that looks like, of how I'm supposed to treat and love my body. It was something like that, and I was just like, yeah, because like immediately you just said, it's, you do get to ask that question, but you also get to hear. And I didn't realize that there was that, I don't know, that disconnect for me of like, this can be worship. This can be a way
So
to connect with
good.
God. It doesn't have to be something where I'm constantly stressed out about a number or beating myself
Yeah.
up. It can be something that furthers our relationship with God and our kingdom work and all that great stuff. So,
Oh, I
I
love that
mean,
so much.
well, I mean, babe, you wrote it.
I just say it.
Well,
I
good.
think you've probably heard me say this, Christy, and I know you guys feel the same way about alcohol. Like, my goal is not that anyone lives into my picture of health or my picture of freedom. My goal is
Mm,
that people learn to hear from God about what freedom and
yeah.
health looks like for them. And so that's why even just hearing anybody else repeat back, like, I think this is happening. I think this is happening. That's what makes me the most happy. And that's also what makes me so crazy grateful for y'all's work too.
Oh, thanks, babe.
Likewise. My gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
know
so
you're
My
much.
joy.
I know you're have you finished, you finished writing the most recent book, right?
I
And when's
have,
that coming
yes.
out? Oh my
It
gosh, I'm
doesn't
so
come out
excited.
till next April. Next
Okay.
April, but yeah, we got a minute. We've got time.
That's so exciting. Are you saying what
Yeah.
it's about yet? I can't remember.
I don't think I'm supposed to, but I am anyways.
Okay.
It's on rest. So it's
Oh,
about rest.
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. Yep. Because
Bring
just like you said,
it.
like that's next progression. When we get women listening to their bodies and listening to their desire, then they're going to realize like, oh, I'm actually running at a pace that's not sustainable, and this is not how I want to live.
You mean I get
yeah.
to rest and it's good?
Yeah.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah.
I love it. That was, yeah. Oh my gosh. How long did I run that race and
Woo.
didn't even realize? Yeah. So good. I cannot
So
wait for that.
thank you guys. I'm so grateful. Thank you so, so, so much for letting me share about body shame
Of
today.
course. Thank you for popping by, and we just love you, and we will see you over on the Instagram, and we'll put all the things in the show notes.
All right. Love you, gals.
Thanks, Jess. See
Bye,
ya.
babe. See
Y'all are
ya.
Bye.
amazing. That was so great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank
Of
you. Oh
You're
my
the
course.
best.
gosh.
Thank you for your work. It's so, so, so important.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're
Thank
so
you.
grateful for you too, babe.
Thanks
All
for
right.
leading the
Bye,
way.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye. I know you had this struggle, but like tell me a little bit about how you struggled with body image and body shape.
I had I definitely had the body as, my body is a project mentality most of my life, but I can think back to how before my body was a project, that before that was my thinking, really it was my body as the enemy.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it started, this unconscious internal war, I guess, against my body. I have some ideas where it comes from, and I mean, maybe for another day we'll get into all that. But I'm happy to talk about it, but we don't have to, we don't have to get into all of it right now. But I think it's that shift from so already setting myself up against my body, not
Mm-hmm.
as something that is blessed, that is good, that is,
Yeah.
not to be fought at word against, and then
Yeah.
turning it at some point, probably more in the teenage years and on, it's the idea that this is a project. And I think about how, and we talk about this all the time here. I mean, we talk about this, it's like, it's so crazy to me how it doesn't really matter what the thing is, whether it's alcohol or body shame, whatever it is. We talk about how we're being influenced and we're being shaped constantly by the messaging that we're receiving from people, from families of origin, but largely from culture, where it makes sense that we would adopt beliefs from our family, right? But
Yeah.
I think I'm always blown away by how I never realized how influenced I was by cultural messaging, and
Yeah.
how that has impacted my view of my body and the space it should be taking up in this world and what it should look like and all of those things. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that I think is so important because now that and I don't necessarily know, like, I think that the thoughts obviously still come and I have to be very conscious at turning them around, but more than even like my own thinking about this, I just don't want my daughter or your daughter, like I don't want our
yes,
daughters to have to like go on this same journey, and yet it just feels like they're up against it, right? Like, have you seen the new Dove, the whole new Dove campaign about? So yeah, you go look it up. It's a girl, and it basically shows her journey through getting a phone and then like developing an eating disorder, and it basically is a call for stricter guidelines for social media for girls, because it does put these unrealistic standards of, like Jess said, aesthetic, quote unquote, beauty and health that are not. But who's making this stuff up? Who is making it up? And this is what I say to clients all the time. It's like, I want to take a break from alcohol because I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, but who? But why? Who said that? Who said you have to lose 10 pounds? It's never the husband. I mean, it's never the husband. It's never like a girlfriend. It's generally not the doctor either. It's just us.
well, I was going to say,
It's
and
just us.
we
Yeah.
can't answer that because it's just so ingrained by how we've absorbed these messages that tell us. And it's the difference too. I think about the difference between the messages we're receiving from the world and the messages of truth that come from the word, and how when I mean, it's only been within the last few years that my faith is at the level that it is. So I was looking at this from, more of a non-Christian lens. I wanted to look at it through the Christian lens, being a Christian, but I didn't fully. It was a big leap for me to believe that my body is good regardless of what
Yeah.
it looks like.
Yes.
And there was also
Yeah.
some shame in the fact that I couldn't believe that. I couldn't,
Yeah.
that admitting that I couldn't fully believe that was true, because if that's what, then that's where, I think about just that turn from the messaging that we've received and asking the questions like, well, who says that extra 10 pounds, like, so who, like Jess spoke to so beautifully, like, who are you co-signing on this with?
Yeah.
You know?
She wanted, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No.
I was just gonna say, I remember her saying that she wanted to call the book Your Body is Good, but when they ran it through all the panels, like basically, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she said the publisher basically came back and said no woman believes that, and they're right. Like, I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that at all.
I still have to check it. I mean, I
Yeah,
still
me
am
too.
more, it's an ongoing thing. I have more moments of believing it now than ever, but
Yeah, same.
so I'm moving in that direction. But I do believe that, and that is so sad to me. But it's also where I see it being so similar, kind of, to how the work that we do with finding freedom from alcohol. It's like, okay, well, if I can't jump all the way to right now, I have this belief that my body is a project and that it needs to be fixed. And when I fix it or solve it, then everything will be okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I want to get to the idea that my body is good, like I know the truth, but I don't feel that yet. What's that latter step up I can take in my thinking that allows me to continue bringing it to God and asking and questioning and bringing the discomfort that I feel around that, that all of it too. And so it's like, okay, maybe it's starting with, I'm open to seeing if this is really true. Like, I know it's true, but I'm open to seeing if it becomes, if I can feel that it's really true at some point. Just that opening, just like Jess was saying, when she said, what if, is that like
Yeah.
turn to the possibility of something different? Or what if it's starting with just that neutral, I have a body? What if it's not my body is a project or my body is good because I'm not quite there yet? What if it's just, I have a body?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. My one, which is kind of like right next to that, lives right next to that the thought that I find so helpful when I go down the rabbit hole of hating my body, which I mean, I've done so much work and I feel so much better about it. But like those thoughts do creep in, and my thought always is it's actually not my body. It's my thoughts about my body. It's not the size of
Yes.
my thighs. It's what I'm thinking about the size of my thighs. And then I'm like, oh, my thighs are fine. It's that thought that needs to go.
And oh my gosh, I love that you said that, because that's what was coming up for me earlier too. It's my thinking that needs to be checked. But even if we back it up a little further, how do we form the thoughts that we have? Through our eyes, when I'm looking at my jiggly arm, the thought is formed because I'm looking at what I see is different than what God sees. And so
Yeah.
let's checking our thoughts and running them through, like, are our thoughts our own, or whose eyes are we using to even make those, to form those thoughts, those beliefs. I mean,
Yeah. 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 I think that's a really good Tina to wrap up with, of just like find that whatever that is, that latter thought, that you need, because I think going from, as you said, from hating your body to loving your body is a whole journey. Even getting to the point of my body is good can feel hard. It felt hard for me. But if you can just be open to that just idea of it starts with the thinking and how God thinks about us, and just, yeah, I love that so much.
yeah, find that, like, yeah, I love what you're saying. It's like finding that. So if you're calling out a story, if you're like, yeah, okay, that feels really true, that my body is not a project. I see that. And my body is good, is, that's the 180. That's the big leap. Well, what thought can you think that is also true and feels a little bit better because it's when we have that neurotoxicity, I think about so many things where I'm like, I want to believe this is true, but I don't believe it. That creates more neurotoxicity. So where can you find that statement that does feel true and feels a little bit lighter? And then I'm open to seeing if it's true. That was something that served me. I mean, that served me in a lot of different places, but freedom from alcohol, body, all of that. It's like, I'm open to just seeing if this is true. Okay.
Yeah.
That shifts how you feel and then allows you, scientifically, it allows you to bring that upper brain back on so you can actually learn and see if that's, true or not. But yeah. I love that.
And the other one that's so good, and it's right in line with what we're saying, is just, especially when it comes to the idea that our body is a project, like who would we be without that idea and that thought, and that deadline? Like who would we be? Like if you didn't think, and this is like what I end up like turning it around to now anytime. So if you're coming on a discovery call with me and you want to talk about the 10 pounds you want to lose because you want to take a break from alcohol and that's what the goal is, I'm literally going to say to you, like, is there any good reason to hang on to that thought? Is there any good reason? Right? Because it doesn't. It just brings shame and pain, and there's just no good reason. There's just like, there's no, listen, I could talk about this for so long, but just like there's no real good reason for getting on the scale. It's to make you feel a certain way. And it's normally looking for some sort of validation or some sort of like, the push to punish you to do something to get to a different size. So who would you be? That's my Tina. Who would you be without these thoughts? Like, is there any good reason to hang on to this? Is there any good reason?
Yeah. It's so true. I haven't, I'm happy to report I haven't used a scale and it's been a couple years, and I used to weigh myself every single day. When I've gone to the doctor, they weigh and I'm like, what? But like, every single day. It's like, why are we doing the things that we're doing? What are we trying to like? This is something that I've been, I literally have it on an index card right here. I've been just thinking about it the last couple of weeks. Am I showing up as someone who has something to prove? Or am I showing up as someone who has something to offer? And I think about how,
love that,
when I was in that place where my body is a project, I was showing up as someone that had something to prove. And therefore this is what this fit into that. And so, oh my gosh, this is a big one. I have so much to say.
I know.
So
and we can come back to it, but I'm so grateful. Thank you again, Jess, for joining us. And it's such a great conversation. And I'm just so glad we got to have it together.
Same. Bye.
Yay. Bye, babe.
Thank you so much for joining us again this week. You can find all of our episodes at butjesusdrankwine.com, and make sure you follow us over on the gram at Love Life Sober with Christy and Mead at I'm Not Sober, I'm Free.
To learn more about what we do, you can visit our websites at meadhollandshirley.com and lovelifesober.com.
Take a screenshot of this podcast and share it with a friend or two.
And don't forget to subscribe so you don't have to worry about missing a single episode. And if you love what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify.
This helps more women who are feeling stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle to find hope and encouragement.
Thanks, ladies. We so appreciate you. We'll see you next week.